Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Up Close and Cultural with Dr. Karissa. You can tune in to the show on all across our social media platforms. You can find us on KUAW Radio on Facebook as well as Instagram. You can also find us at www.kuaw.org on the TuneIn app, on Periscope, as well as Twitch. So, with that being said, I hope everyone is staying warm in this snowy weekend that we've had. It's gotten a little bit better. Well, since it's not snowing, but it's still freezing outside. However, I hope everyone is doing well. With that being said, I do want everyone to keep in mind that there are those who are less fortunate than us who unfortunately are bearing against the elements outside. We did lose one of our houseless friends this past week, again, due to, well, a reaction, I would say, to the elements or just simply trying to keep warm. And again, being one of the wealthiest nations in the world, something such as basic as food and just trying to stay warm should not be an issue for people. But either way, here we are. So again, I am here advocating for our houseless friends. If you can, please donate to those organizations that do actively, that you actually do visually see helping the houseless population, and you actually see the funds and the donations go to them. Please consider giving to them. Whether it's monetary or you actually go out and buy the items yourselves. There are people who will come out and pick up those items from you if you are unable to transport them yourself, or if you don't know where to take them. You can always reach out to organizations, especially Free Hot Soup. You can also contact me here or find me anywhere on Facebook. You will also find me and my staff at Lazarus Ministries on Saturdays if you want to come and drop off donations, and that address is 3151 Olive Street. So that's just to name a few. And again, we are all on social media. Again, there are a lot of organizations out there who are actually doing the work. And if you don't know where to go, if you don't know how to contribute, or if you are looking for ways to do so, then just reach out and someone will respond to you so that you can help to combat this other pandemic that we have called houselessness or homelessness right now. So, again, thank you so much for tuning in. Today, I want to continue the conversation from last week. But before I start to talk about that, because I have some great things coming up about that, I do want to take a moment and talk about the month of January. The month of January has been designated as Human Trafficking Awareness Month. And bringing light to that, there have been a lot of activities and a lot of literature going around the city pertaining to ending human trafficking as well. Also recognizing human trafficking and what you can do to stop it. But on just a basic level, when we think about human trafficking, because everyone does not specifically know what that is. But before you start to get overwhelmed with what it is, or believe that even though it is the big legal part of it, and there is that criminal justice aspect, I want to touch on those things that actually lead to how a person becomes trafficked. And it's the things that we are, or all of us have been struggling with at one point or another during this pandemic, or even before, but we will all agree that the pandemic has caused a strain on finances, on family relationships, mental health as a whole, on your job, be it whether you're educated or not, college educated, it didn't matter. It all hit all of us. So with that being said, the things that have happened because of that are those things on the back end. If you are unemployed or if you are in a job and you are not making the money that you're used to making because you've had to take another job because of the pandemic, or if you are in a job such as our fast food workers, and you are not being paid a living wage, and you work 40 hours a week, you do everything that you're supposed to do. However, you still cannot afford to cover just basic living expenses. You cannot afford to be paid $10 an hour, $11 an hour. I'm not even sure what fast food, I would say the average fast food worker makes, and I'm just using that as an example. I'm not sure what that average wage is, but when it comes to just a single person, let alone someone trying to raise a family, but just a single person trying to pay rent, pay a car note, pay health insurance, pay car insurance, just the mandatory things that we have to have in life, and pay all of those things from a living wage source of income, it just doesn't cut it. That's just one example. We have the systems. I always speak about systems. We also have the concerns with some of the politics and economics that happens within, I would say, our social services or the foster care system. We are still combating. I know I am a huge advocate of getting away from or totally, well, not or, but and totally eliminating the age out rule. What happens is once a child turns a certain age, and it used to be 18, I'm not sure what it is now, but it used to be at the age of 18. I remember when I first started this, I think it was maybe the age of 16. That just shows you how long I've been in this game. But when a child turned 18 years of age, that means they age out of the system, which pretty much means that you are put out of a group home or your foster care home, wherever you were residing. And now you're just a member of society. There were no or limited wraparound services. And now, simply because of what has happened due to the pandemic, a lot of funding has been cut. The money is not there. Staff is not there. That's not always the case, but I am just saying that there are reasons that are given for those things to occur. But whatever those reasons are, these things are happening. So with that being said, as a result of that, there are still these people, these living, breathing people, children who are out on the street, who were working, well, I won't say working, we're talking about the foster care system, but the children who were in foster care and who had somewhere to stay or had some sort of support system, and now all of a sudden they are out on the street. You also have people who have just unstable housing, period. People who deal with mental illnesses such as trauma, drug addiction, whatever the case may be. We all come to the table with a plethora of issues. But I'm saying all of that to say this. When it comes to human trafficking, the way that people are lured in with the predatory behaviors of a trafficker is that they are able to hone in on the needs and the struggles of these disparaged populations. And they create this false sense of security. And they present all of these things to fix whatever is wrong with them. So when you have someone who is struggling with an addiction, unfortunately, you will have that trafficker who will supply them with drugs. When you have that person who is struggling with mental illness, and it doesn't even have to be a severe mental illness, and it does not even have to be anything clinical. It can just be someone that just may have issues. We all can think of a time when we were growing up and we just hated our parents or didn't like them very much and just wanted to leave home. And so because, there's always that gap where there's that space where there's that disconnect between the parent and the child. And if it's not that healthy space where you're transitioning from being autonomous or transitioning from being adult or a child into your own autonomy, and that normal growth stage is what I'm trying to say, then you do have people who will come in and hone in on the negative. And that's what a predator does. So these are the people that you have to watch for online, that you have to watch for, who are sending your children messages online saying, yeah, your mother shouldn't have said that to you. Or, yeah, your dad shouldn't be in your business like that, or shouldn't talk to you like that. And then the next thing you know, your child is meeting this person that they don't know at McDonald's somewhere, and you don't see them again ever in life. And that's how it happens. Or then you go back to the person that I mentioned before, the person who is doing everything that they're supposed to do, and they're working every day and being the quote unquote responsible citizen, but they just aren't making the money that they should. And then you just have someone to swoop in and give them an out to be able to make more money. Whatever the case may be, all of these avenues are ways that perpetrators sneak in and they infiltrate people's lives, and this is how people end up being missing. And so when I talk about the systems that are at play, be mindful of what's going on in your community. Be mindful of the people that you elect into office. Be mindful of the places where you shop. For example, we should all be behind the petitions or the laws to increase the minimum wage. It benefits everyone. We should all be behind any law that benefits society as a whole. And any politician that is not behind that, then that is not who you should be putting your support behind. We should all be advocating to have the people who have the power to make the decisions in our communities to live within our communities. Because if they do not live here, then really what is the vested interest in the community to make it better? And I will touch on that a little bit later. So when I say the systems that are at play, those are things that we should be concerned about, so people don't get to the point of committing these acts of survival or looking for a savior, such as these perpetrators and predators, and therefore end up in positions of being missing or trafficked or whatever the case may be. So we all can do something. And it starts with just being aware of not only the criminal justice part of it, but how this thing starts to begin with. So with that being said, considering where we were last week, talking about our children, our black children, our black women going missing, it is still, and I actually looked up, because I know last week I gave you statistics from, I want to say it was 2019. And that number for missing children actually went up for the year of 2020. I haven't gotten the figures for the year of, well, yeah, I do. For the year of 2021, it is upwards of 268,000 black children that were reported missing in the United States. And I did get a couple of emails of people or instant messages that did give me names of black children that were missing, and thank you for those. And I did appreciate the feedback. I did talk about it on Clubhouse for a little bit with some people, and it was interesting. Just like I said, if they had to look, they had to look on websites to find children that were missing, which led to my point, how we are not heavily publicized as missing. And of course, if we are not missing, then who's looking for us? Which again is the point. So there is the purpose of today is also to home in on the key role that the media plays in its, or I guess just discuss its place and what it can do when it comes to missing and abducted women and children in the Black community. And again, with all things, it has its historical roots. I believe last week I touched on just going back to slavery, Civil War times, when Black people ran away, when Black people escaped from slavery, they were considered runaways. And so the word runaway in and of itself, when it pertained to us, has always had a negative connotation. And so the runaways, the escaped slave being categorized as a runaway automatically criminalized them and thus made them a fugitive. And again, the cycle continues. And so here it is in the media. You're on this flyer. That's our first media out. Well, I won't say first because our first were being put on the signs when we were stuck on the auction blocks. That's how we were advertised. And then coming behind that, now we have these signs of this criminal when we are trying to get away from being abused and where we're trying to escape slavery. So with that being said, you still have the term runaway that is being placed on us. And then that term runaway, it puts a child in a special category that says, well, when you consider its history, it says, well, we don't have to put so much effort into looking for them because them not being here is somehow their responsibility. So how we are depicted in the media matters. How we are depicted, but also the amount of coverage that we get. There are studies that will show you that even when Black and missing persons are reported in the media, be it children or women, the number of words that are used and the time that is used to report them is significantly shorter to other races and other genders. So even you move past the Civil War, excuse me, and you think about, I don't know how many of you all have seen the movie Birth of a Nation. I'm not talking about the one that came out just a few years ago about Nat Turner. I'm talking about the silent movie, the one that was out in maybe, I think it was 1915, but this was the one that was based on the book, The Klansman, that horrible book. But either way, in that movie, it was a silent movie, and it was so minstrel. Again, it was a silent movie, and we were depicted as slaves, helpless, untrustworthy, and just plain idiotic. So point being is that there you are with more media coverage of the typical Black person as being degraded or something to not being protected. So we have this history of how we are seen or even what we see in the media. And so when this translates, we are not only seeing these things, but when other people see these things, how it translates to them is in direct correlation to how they respond to us. So as a result, when you only see Black people in the media being portrayed as violent or unproductive, or just of no positive use or just being of no contribution to the community, then when something bad happens in our neighborhoods, which is often quickly and swiftly reported, then the onlookers view it as somehow we are accomplices in the things that happen in our community. And not only that, but that those things are normal. And so, because of that, then all of these things that happen are directly a result of our own behavior because of just a series of bad media coverage cycled over and over and over again. And so, case in point, I know many of you remember the Trayvon Martin case. And I am thinking about when a certain Latinx news reporter was on Fox News, and he made the comment that his hoodie was responsible for his death. And so, of course, you know, the black man has always been depicted as the thug. When you see a black man dressed a certain way because of his pants or his hat or his shirt, whatever, it doesn't even have to be anything specific, then automatically they think he's a thug. And so this is where that reporter was going when it came to the Trayvon Martin case. And so he, again, essentially said that his hoodie, or if it wasn't for his hoodie, and I'm paraphrasing, that he wouldn't have died. Of course, you know, all the backlash came, you know, as it should have. However, and he apologized. I will say that. He did apologize for it. And he said that what he should have said was that he was wrong for putting responsibility, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said something like, instead of putting responsibility on what kids wear, that it is shameful about how people react to it. Whatever the case may be, but that just proved my point, which all goes back to the media coverage that we receive. And what is being put out there about us is in direct correlation to how people perceive us. And those perceptions are wrong. I will absolutely say that, because you cannot take one single isolated thing and throw it on the whole community. And then more importantly, you cannot take one single thing that happens in the black community and then isolate it as though it does not happen in other communities, because that is absolutely not true. So, with that being said, how we are depicted in the media, it matters. And so when we fast forward to the media coverage that missing women and children get, and how it also, not only it being null and void in that manner, it also sends out or reinforces the thought process of how we don't matter. But there are things that we can do to change that. There are a lot of studies and a lot of reports out there. This is not a matter of opinion. These are things that I have actually looked up. And again, you can research it yourselves, but I have mine documented, and I will be more than happy to show it with you. I am particularly looking at a Department of Justice study that I saw, and it talks about the media specifically and how we are reported. And I would just read it to you. It says, according to the Department of Justice, racial and gender differences in news coverage of missing children may translate into differential success of those efforts by the public and law enforcement, or in differential success of those efforts. The Department of Justice is also quoted in saying that intense early media coverage ensures that people will be looking for your child. So the information is out there and it's been proven. So it's not only if we inform, but when we inform. So we have to act first and then also act swiftly. And the media has to be a part of that as well. So in your communities, your your dollars that you spend at your grocery stores, your movie theaters, everywhere that you can look on your news station or hear on your radio, and whatever place you patronize, have conversations with these people. Find out what philanthropic organizations they are a part of. Find out where their dollars go. Find out if they are reinvested in your community. Find out if they are advertising in media outlets that support Black people and their causes. And then if they are not, ask them why. And then ask them to contribute. It's always best. I'm not saying attack people. I'm not saying that at all, because I'm not in any way promoting for you to be or to go and speak to anyone in any offensive manner, because I don't believe in that. I believe in, being respectful to all people. So with that being said, because sometimes a conversation, especially a civil conversation, can go a very long way, so you don't reinforce those negative images of us out there. Because the most powerful thing that you can do is to just be quiet and close your wallet as well as your mouth, and take your money to those places where you are heard and where you are seen. So again, ask the questions, and if you don't like the answer, take your money in your mouth somewhere else to where you are appreciated. And I will just leave it at that. So when it comes to the systems that are at play before the media can even get to a story to report, one thing that I did not touch on, I talked about law enforcement for a little bit on last week, but this is the other part that law enforcement plays in missing children cases. So again, reiterating that when and if the police department takes the report, because you will find that they don't always have to take the report. Well, let me say that. I think that they have to take a report. I will say that they don't always do take a report for your child being missing. What the police officer does have is a great amount of power when they do take that report in how they label your child. Again, when they take that report and they label your child as a runaway, then they are not put on the Amber Alert system, because the Amber Alert system is for abduction cases. And there is a huge difference between runaways and abducted or kidnapped children in the eyes of the law. And I have a remedy for that as well. I will be rolling out the Bronze Alert system very, very soon, and I will give details about that as well. I'm very excited about that, and I'll talk about that in a moment. However, when your child is labeled as a runaway by the police officer, that is taking the report. I say that that police officer is given a huge amount of power, not only in that your child is a report on the desk, but also, for one, that because that child is not looked for, anything can happen. if that child is labeled a runaway or missing, or I will say just not given as much concern as an abduction case, then when your child, well, unfortunately, there are children who will show up having either been trafficked or have been murdered or a whole list of things as a direct result of being reported as missing or runaway and not given the urgency in finding them as they needed or placed on an Amber Alert, all because of the decision that one police officer made. And from that decision, this police officer is absolved of all fault from whatever happened to that child behind that. Am I saying that that child was killed, that the child dying, murdered, whatever happened was this police officer's fault? I'm not saying that at all. I'm speaking to reasonable people because the point I'm trying to make is that that's a lot of power given to one person. And there are a lot of things that happen behind the decisions that you make. And so I spoke about earlier about the people and the politicians that you elect and have working in your communities. I know just recently there was this battle going on in the city regarding whether or not police officers have to stay within the counties that they work in. And that matters because you take a particular case like that, you have a missing child. Well, if you are speaking with a police officer who doesn't know you, doesn't have to know you particularly, but doesn't know anything about your community, has no ties to your community, you don't have to worry about seeing them at church. You don't have to worry about seeing them at the grocery store. You don't have to worry about running into them at the gym because they don't live anywhere around you. They have no investment in your community at all. Then what is the motivation for them to have any concern or urgency about the people in the particular community and whether or not they go missing, and then whether or not they're found when they do? On the other hand, if they are in your community, if these police officers worship with you, if they see you on a daily basis, if their children go to school with your children, then it means something different. They are invested in the community, and there will be more care and concern about the things that actually happen in that community. So again, that's another system that's at play that you as an individual has some control over and some say over to combat this issue. So with that being said, on the other end, well, I would say in addition to a child being reported missing or labeled as a runaway, there is a portion in the law that says that if you do not make the Amber Alert, then there is supposed to be in the police department what is called a CART team. That is CART, and that stands for a Child Abduction Response Team. And that team can be made up of all police officers, or it could be made up of or a collaboration of community agencies, the police department, the fire department, social workers, because there is training. You can't just up and pop up on the CART team. And so this is a special unit that will actually go out and search for the team. I personally have not seen one in Kansas City, and I haven't looked it up. I haven't, and that has been for a reason, because this is something that I am going to do in person. I don't want those questions answered or asked online or via email. So again, with that being said, in our community, I know just recently here, there were some children that went missing. And unfortunately, it came back that they had been killed. And the people who found them were just regular citizens who took it upon themselves to organize search teams to go out and look for them. Now, and kudos to them, when everyone should be out, even though this is task for the law enforcement to do. But that just shows you, the resiliency and the determination of our community. When something happens, we are going to get up and do something about it. And so, with that being said, when these children were found, they weren't in inconspicuous places. One child was found just in the woods, not deep in the woods, not hidden up under a tree or in a ditch or a barrage, or in some place where you had to use a drone or a carnivore sniffing dog. None of this happened. One person was found in a vehicle, in a parked vehicle. Nothing happened in these cases in the search that required anything scientific or anything outside of the realm of just going out and actively searching. And ordinary citizens did this. Ordinary concerned citizens did this. So bringing another piece into the puzzle and talking about systems and also relating that to things that have happened here in Kansas City. I can only speak about Kansas City because this is where I am, but take this to your own communities as well. There was this thing with the budget and where the money went. So if Kansas City and surrounding areas, if they do have CART teams, then, and the questions that I'm going to ask and that you should be asking of your police departments, why were you not with these families while they were doing that? Let alone, first question, why weren't you out there yourself? And then two, if these families had to be out there, and if this is a department within the police department, which means that it does receive funds, then my thinking is that if you all are not using them, then these citizens who are actually out there doing the work, then they should be receiving that money. Again, these are systems that are at play and questions that should be asked. So there are a lot of things that are involved when it comes to missing and abducted women and children. I will never be able to cover them all. I can only give you the information. I just hope that you use it and, use it to your advantage. I wish that we were living in an age where it wasn't necessary, but it is. And unfortunately, going missing is getting high tech. The biggest worry in human trafficking, or the biggest issue about combating human trafficking, once you do recognize it, because recognizing it comes in so many different forms, sometimes it's hard to label or to recognize it, I would say. But then also, they're moved around. Victims of human trafficking are moved around. Either they're hidden very well, or they are moved around so much till even if you are aware of their whereabouts, by the time they are actually surveilled and, law enforcement can prove, or whoever can prove that they're there, they're gone. So that's an issue. But there is one other part that I was actually speaking to a detective about a couple of days ago. And I don't have an iPhone. I have an Android, Team Android over here. So he was telling me about these air tags with the iPhone. And this detective, he's not here in Kansas City. But I just wanted to bring this to I wanted to, and maybe, everybody else knows about this. Because I don't have an iPhone, I was not made aware of this. But there are these things called AirTags, and they are now being used by human traffickers to track children and to track women back to either their homes or just to follow them, period, so they can be kidnapped, raped, drugged, whatever the case may be. So all it takes is proximity. You a person can get next to you, and it could just be something that may be innocent in your eyes, where someone can bump into you at a grocery store. Next thing you know, they've dropped an air tag in your pocket or in your purse. Or it could be, when I was talking to this detective, it was that the air tag was left on this young lady's car, and she was followed home. And I'm not going to go into detail about what we spoke about, but the point is that these things are getting more and more high tech. They are getting more and more outrageous. So you have to be aware of your surroundings. You have to be vigilant in your efforts to stay aware of what could happen, because you never know. And when a person is desperate or when they want something, they will make it happen. So again, I don't have an iPhone. I don't even know how these AirTags work. But I do know that in speaking with a detective, trying to get information, an interview on another show that I'm going to do, that was information that I was given because he was trying to educate me about being aware of my surroundings. So I just thought that I would just share that with you guys as well, because you may be aware of something else outside of an AirTag that I don't know about, that you could possibly share with the community. But be aware. And then when you do, like for me, when I pull in my garage, I'm always looking around. My house is well lit, and I take certain precautions outside of that, to where I just make sure that my children and myself, that we stay safe. So again, I wanted to share that information, and I hope that it helps. And by all means, if you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns about that particular issue and how you can stay safe in your communities, then please leave that information. I will also be posting information on situational awareness classes that I will be giving for children as well as for women. They were already scheduled, as you know, recently here in Kansas City, because of the rates of infection have gone up, and because that particular variant is highly contagious. There are places that are closed, and the mask mandates have gone into place. And of course, you cannot do any strenuous exercise. I mean, nobody's going to be in there doing taekwondo, but I just want you to, I'm never going to put anybody in harm's way. So the point being, if you have to be masked up, again, situational awareness starts before anything gets physical. But still, because of those two things, because everyone needs to, because places are closing, and because I still want to be aware of the distance, we have had to reschedule them because we aren't sure where things are going to go right now. But I will be posting that. They're just being rescheduled. They have not been canceled. So the situational awareness classes, I did speak about them when I spoke about Lazarus last week. But I will be posting that and putting that out once we get the go-ahead, and definitely make sure that we are having it in a place and a space where everybody can remain safe. Also with that, what I spoke about earlier was that I was rolling out the bronze alert. And the bronze alert, it is an alert that I have written and have been working on for quite a while now. And I am excited to say that it will be coming to fruition. Well, it has, but as far as rolling it out, um, very soon, the website, www.bronzealert.com, will have all of the information regarding preventative measures, from an economic level, a political level, and a citizen level, in relation to how we not only handle child abduction cases, but how we can get in the forefront of it all. Again, with situational awareness classes and also advocating for CART teams if they aren't in your city, or getting funding for CART teams and help from your local enforcement agencies to fund them or their volunteers, or just get information on how to make them more productive. There will also be with the launch, not the launch, but the launch of the bronzealert.com at the venue, we will also be doing ID cards for your children. So note, these are not state ID cards, but the importance of that is also when it comes to Amber Alerts. If the police department did not have enough information about the child as well as the abductor, physical description, not only just the vehicle or their mode of abduction. Again, that's another issue. A runaway is not a runaway in a vehicle. So that is another reason why they aren't on the Amber Alerts. But I digress. So if they do not have an up-to-date picture, they do not have current descriptors like height, weight, and I'm not talking about just your pictures on Facebook, things like that. I am talking about something that they can actually put in place. Then, again, you're not put on the Amber Alert. So that is the purpose of these ID cards. They're not going to get you in a club or anything like that. Again, the Bronze Alert is tailored to children. And in the state of Missouri, you're considered a child if you're 17 years of age or younger. So these ID cards will have all of that information on you, on the child, and you can keep it on you. And it's very stressful, you know, when you are trying to speak to someone or the police officer when your child goes missing or when you think something has happened to your child. So anything you can do to mitigate, you know, your response time or whatever the case may be, then those are things that we're exploring to try to help. So when they're sitting there asking you all of these questions, like, you know, what is their eye color? What is their hair color? What do they, you know, all of this, give them the card. This is all of the information right here. This is up to date. And there are other things that we're going to put on the card, and you will get all of that information as well. Again, this is going to be by appointment because we have to be mindful of the variants that are running around out there. But again, this will be with the launch, and you can sign up for the appointment to have the child's ID card, and it will be laminated. So you can sign up on the website to make the appointment to have this done. So again, there's a lot of things that I put in place. I'm very passionate about this. I do thank you. I especially want to thank my friend Tanya Gentry. She actually ran the Juvenile Intake and Assessment Center with me in Kansas City, Kansas, and she has been sharing the post on social media, and I have had other people that I have worked with at Comprehensive Mental Health and at KBC who have come to me, and it's all been positive feedback because they know that this is something that has been well over 10 years in the making. So I do thank you and appreciate you guys for that. Keep sharing and keep posting. You know, social media is just a small piece of it, but we're getting ready to do big things with it. And again, just keep in mind everything that I just said. I'm a big advocate of education first, and then you move. So, all of you, stay safe, keep your children safe, watch out for your environments, keep your mind healthy, keep those around you healthy as best you can and in good spaces, because you just never know. You just never know what's going to happen. And I'm sorry, I just went to another place right there. Unfortunately, I had a death in my family. Uh, Yesterday, and this was someone that was very, very close to me. So again, keep my family in prayers as well. But I just want you guys to be on the lookout for the bronze alert. And if you need any links or have any questions about any of the information that I provided today, by all means, you can reach out to me. Again, follow KUAW across all social media platforms. That's Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, Twitch. Did I forget one? And Instagram. Twitter. Twitter. That's right. I always forget Twitter. Okay. Twitter and Instagram. And thank you for joining in, and I will see you guys in 2 weeks. How long was that?